What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the economic calendar going into tomorrow as we have important data coming out. Not to mention more data involving the overall market since we have earnings and things like that also coming out. So I'm going to break down all this data, talk about the news for Tesla and what the charts are suggesting for Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, and the others. But let me first mention that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Weeble link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Weeble and deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks. You deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75 of them. And the offer ends very soon in just 5 days. Anyways, for the market right now, Tesla has managed to break to the upside from its range. We weren't able to break below 158, and Tesla ended up bouncing very nicely. We got lots of bullish news that came out from the media, not to mention the market even pushing more as the market continued in the after hours. And as the market is up even more, this is helping Tesla. Now, even though Tesla's looking bullish from a technical standpoint, and the same can be said about SPY, the QQQ, Nvidia, and the others, I want to just call out that we have a lot of data coming out that could kind of somewhat affect this if the market is going to continue or not. So I want to talk about that data first before I break down these charts. Tomorrow is going to be Friday, April 26th, 2024. 1 hour before the market opens, we have the PCE data report coming out, and this is going to be very important. PCE is heavily influenced by CPI, and the Fed does tend to prioritize this because it involves a lot of research. PCE is used for lots of research and things like that from different economic websites and such. So this is going to be very important. So what are we expecting for PCE? Well, I think that CPI in the past could give us a lesson on what could end up happening. One thing you'll notice is that for core CPI when this came out, right? CPI is another important inflationary measure, just like PCE. All right, CPI already came out for the month of March, and you could see that core CPI was once again very close to expectations, close to what we saw from before. But there was a slight increase in all items CPI, and we're actually expecting something very similar for PCE. PCE year over year, we're expecting about 2.6%. That is once again a slight increase relative to what we saw previously, but we'll have to see if it's close to that or not. That's going to be very important. And then for core PCE, we're expecting 2.6 to 2.7%, a little bit of a decrease compared to what we saw previously. That's also going to be very important. In my personal opinion, core PC will most likely be aligned with expectations based off what we're seeing from CPI and historical data. But for PCE year over year, I'm not as confident, I'm not as sure because we are expecting it to be a little bit harder than before. As long as it's as expected at 2.6% or lower, I think things should be fine for the stock market. Now, on top of this, we also have the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report coming out and the 5 year inflationary expectations. We'll see what this data causes at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So those are the main times to be watching the markets for volatility. An hour before market open when we have PCE data coming out, and also 30 minutes after market open when we have all this Michigan data coming out. All right, so for more data about the markets right now, the fear and greed index is getting closer to neutral, and we're starting to see a big shift in momentum as it's becoming more neutral. We start to see the put and call options ratio decreasing. This is happening even more as we're seeing more and more puts being closed. We're seeing these institutions hedging. They're hedging by buying up more shares, which is pumping the markets higher. So the acts of closing these puts is helping the markets pump temporarily. There's no guarantee this will last forever because there have been periods in the past where we reached very similar levels and then we saw this drop a bit before getting bought back up again. So we'll see if that ends up happening again. But right now we're in a very, very critical place, and we're still seeing this trend where puts are being closed and the market is pushing. Market volatility, the VIX was trying to bounce today, got a nice bounce, then ended up dropping back down, and we're still neutral on the VIX. We're getting close to support, very close to that 15 area, also very close to the 50 daily moving average. So we'll see what happens from there. Moving forward, we had some earnings come out. I went over Royal Caribbean in the morning. They did relatively well for earnings. And now, just over the last couple of hours, we had Microsoft, Alphabet, Intel, and Snap and Roku all announced their earnings. I'll be talking more about the top four. So for Microsoft, they did very, very well. They surpassed analyst expectations. They saw revenue at $61.9 billion, a 17% increase, which is good. Net income reached $21.9 billion, up 20%. EPS beat expectations as well. Not bad whatsoever. And revenue, by the way, also beats expectations. So we had nice beats on EPS and revenue. Their overall cloud revenue grew. And from what we're seeing, their projections are in line with expectations. So decent overall forecasts, good earnings have helped Microsoft bounce a bit. It's up about 4% as of right now. Alphabet is also on fire. It's currently up 12%. This is because of the fact that they've announced some very, very bullish things. They're announcing its first dividend and a $70 billion buyback. That's huge. Very, very awesome news. They have their first ever dividend, and they had very, very good earnings. EPS was a nice beat at $1.89 above expectations. Revenue was 80.54 billion above expectations. Everything else from YouTube advertising revenue to Google Cloud revenue above expectations, and their guidance was looking pretty decent for Q2 and what else is we're seeing moving forward. So good guidance, nice announcement about the dividend, and the fact they beat on earnings is why the share price is up. Intel is down because they had mixed earnings, but their overall forecasts are not the strongest for the next quarter. You can see right here, their EPS was a little bit above expectations, but their revenue is below expectations at 12.74 billion. And simultaneously, for the second quarter, they're saying that they're expecting 10 cents per share for earnings and revenue of 13 billion, which is actually not that great. It's a little bit below what Wall Street is expecting. So that's part of why we're seeing this thing dropping about 8%. Mixed earnings, not the best overall guidance, is why it's down. Snapchat or Snap is actually up 27%, not bad whatsoever. They ended up giving us a profit compared to the loss that was expected on EPS. Revenue was above expectations. All these other things were above expectations, and their overall guidance was not bad. So that's why the share price is up. Not bad whatsoever with nice revenue growth. All right, so one more thing about SPY before I break down the news about Tesla and start talking about the charts. Tomorrow is going to be April 26th. I want to call out that we have about 383,000 calls expiring, and we have over about 1.1 or almost 1.1. Actually, it's a little bit more than 1.1. Sorry about that, guys. 1.1 million puts expiring essentially, so it's a 2.85 puts to call ratio. So there's a lot more puts than calls expiring. Max pain's at 504. Market makers could either try to squeeze shorts or close this around 504 as the most advantageous things that they may be doing. So we'll just have to wait and see. But so far, the market is still very positive. Tesla announced some bullish things. They're adding 50,000 Nvidia H100 AI chips, the existing 35,000 to develop AI. And then on top of this, there's been a lot of things reiterated by the media from what Tesla talked about in its earnings. I went over a lot of this news already, so I'm not going to go over the full details, but Tesla is seeing some good projections. We're seeing some positivity from the media. That's part of why it's up. We had 126 million in volume. Buyers are stepping in again, and we're seeing the short volume dipping. It kind of popped and now it's dropping a little bit. And then on top of this, Deutsche Bank is giving Tesla a hold rating. We're also starting to see a big shift in seasonality. We tend to see more volatility at 10 a.m. and also at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We also have a tendency of seeing green about 49% of the time on Fridays. And historically, April tends to be a decent month for Tesla about 50% of the time. So it's been a pretty decent month overall. So, with that being said, what do I see on the charts? What is my prediction, in my personal opinion? I just want to make it very clear that right now the market is showing lots and lots of growth, lots and lots of shifts. And I think that this is going to be very interesting. So, now let's talk about the charts. What, excuse me, what do I see moving forward? Tesla's charts is looking bullish. I think that this could easily go up to 175 plus. If we break 175, we could easily push towards the next resistance at 178, then eventually 180. However, this also depends on the PCE data report. If PCE is hot, watch key support at 168 to 170 on Tesla. If we lose 168, we could be dipping down to 165 or below. But the chart is favoring the upside. It wants to go up to at least 175, in my opinion. I expect that, and I think that there could be more pumping for tomorrow as the most likely possibility. Now, I can't promise that. I'm not saying with 100% certainty it's going to happen because it depends on the data, but there's a very good chance it wants to push higher looking at the current technicals and the way it's moving thanks to new shifts in AI, other pieces of news, how the market's performing, and all these different factors. So, with good news coming out, there's a good chance Tesla's going to try to push higher, but this depends on other factors. So, just be open minded just to be safe and just know that the technicals look quite bullish. Moving forward to the 4 hour on Tesla, one more thing I want to show you. We have our 200 EMA at this 175 area. We're looking very strong right now, building nice momentum. And if we do test that, we have resistance at 175. Breaking that would take us all the way up towards 178 to 179, this resistance, eventually 182 above that. So I see potential in this to push higher. But once again, it depends on the data. So just be open minded just to be safe. For SPY, we're looking bullish right now. This looks like it's trying to favor the upside. If we're bullish, watch this thing try to hold and break past 509. If we break that, look for 512, then 515. If we're bearish, look at 505. If we lose that, look at 502, then eventually 499 to 500. In my personal opinion, This chart, technicals look bullish as we have now like a cup and handle like structure. And if we continue to hold up at 507, I'm going to be looking for a push to 509 and eventually 512 to fill this imbalance up here. We have this nice imbalance that needs to get filled. So I do favor the upside a bit more on this chart, but it's going to depend on the PCE data reports just to be safe. But the chart favors a push going into tomorrow, in my personal opinion. For the QQQ, very, very similar setup as that of SPY. This price action is looking bullish as we're trying to push higher. If we're bearish tomorrow, you want to see it lose 428. If you lose that, look at 425.5 and eventually 422.75. If we're bullish, we're going to be looking for a push towards 430. If that breaks, we're going to be pushing all the way up to about 432, then eventually higher levels. In my personal opinion, we have a cup and handle like structure, and I think that this could push higher. So I think there's a very good chance of us going all the way up towards 433. In my opinion, the QQQ has potential to do that, and I do favor that a bit more, especially thanks to what's happening with Microsoft and Alphabet. However, that also depends on the PCE data, so we'll just have to wait and see, but I still hold the same view that the upside is more probable. For Apple, we're seeing a big shift in the price action. It's trying to push hard towards this 170 area. We did hit 170, then reject a little bit before getting bought back up again. So I was right about the little pop and drop, but I didn't really predict that it would get this big bounce at the end of the day yesterday. That ended up happening a little bit later. But it's okay because we're still holding up nicely and there's still potential in this. So watch resistance at 170. If we break this, there's 170.9. Getting above that would take this all the way up to 172 to fill this imbalance. Losing 170 would take this down to 168.81. If that fails, we'll look at 168 and the lower levels after that. As of right now, there's a nice uptrend slowly developing on Apple. I think that this could continue, and there's a very good chance it's going to try to push higher. So watch and see if you get a little retracement in the morning, then a follow through move to at least 171. Breaking that would take us all the way up to at least 172.5. There is most definitely potential, in my opinion. For Palantir has a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure. So I see potential for this to push even higher. And I think that it's going to be testing 22.36. Breaking this would take this up to 23. However, if we lose support at 21.5, we're going to be dipping back down. As of right now, we're holding up very, very nicely. Now, I just want to be open minded that anything could happen with PCE data. Always be open minded for that. But the chart right now, especially as we're pushing into after hours with all this talk about, these shifts, I think that this is helping the share price, especially as tech is showing some strength, and there is a good chance we could push even higher looking at the current setup. For Supermicro, I know a lot of retail still watch this. Supermicro is holding above 800 very nicely. Breaking this gives us potential to go all the way up to 820. Breaking that would take us to about 843.8. So I see potential in this, in my personal opinion. Now, if we lose support at 800, we're going to sink to 786 and eventually 750. But I think there's a very good chance that this could push higher and that we could be looking for 820, then eventually 843. So Supermicro, in my opinion, has a lot of bullish potential. And I think that this could push higher, but we have to be very careful and very mindful of how this could shift depending on our data. But nonetheless, the chart still looks a bit more bullish. Sorry, guys, I think I skipped Nvidia by mistake. I will go through Nvidia, not forgetting this one. Nvidia is also looking bullish. I forgot to mention this. What is good about this is the fact that we got a lot of bullish news because a lot of analysts are saying that they expect a very, very strong month of May for stocks like Nvidia. They're saying that's based off what they're seeing in chip sales and supply chains. So I think there's a very good chance that if we break this resistance at 845, we're going to be looking for a push towards 862 on Nvidia and even higher levels than that. If we lose 830, I would turn back to bearish, and I think 820 then 815 are coming. But I favor that this thing is going to push towards 862 at the very least in higher levels. That seems more probable in my personal opinion. With that being said, now I'm going to once again focus on these other charts and be a little bit more blunt with them. For Rivian, if this bounces, look at 8.79 to 9 as resistance. If we lose support at 8.5, we're going to be dipping lower. I favor that this is going to bounce a little bit, and we could be looking for at least 8.79. It depends on the data, of course, but I do favor that based off the charts. SoFi is looking pretty decent right now. If we manage to break past 7.7, I could see a push towards 7.9. If we lose support at 7.59, we're going to be looking for a move down towards 7.45. I favor upside a bit more on this chart as well. For the IWM Russell 2000, this is actually looking a little bit weak right now to me, but we could shift tomorrow if we hold support. So if we lose this support at 195, we're going to be sinking all the way down to about 193.8. If we break past 196.5, look at 197.75, breaking that would turn us bullish. We could easily go up to at least 200. We're kind of stuck right now. We're looking a little bit weak with the double top like structure, but I will wait and see just to be safe if I were to play this, because you want to be very patient during days like PCE. AMD is testing 158 as resistance. If we break this, we have 163 coming. This is previous support becoming resistance at 158. Break that, and 163 is next. If we reject off 158, we're going to be sinking back down towards 153. I see potential in this to bounce. I think that that's most likely what's going to happen. For the next one, we have ARM. ARM, in my personal opinion, has potential to push higher if we break past 103.5. Breaking that will take us up to about 107.6. And then we have higher levels above that, like 110. If we reject off this, we're going to be sinking back down. So if we lose 100, it could turn back to bearish, but I think that the chart favors the upside a bit more. And then we could be looking for 107.62. On top of all of this, we have Coinbase. Coinbase, in my opinion, has more potential. I was worried that if we lost 215, this would sink lower. We did come to that level, but we managed to get a bounce back up. If we lost 215, we could have filled this gap, but that ended up not happening. So here's my view. If we break past 226, we're easily going to 230. And if that breaks, we're going up to about 240, in my personal opinion. If we lose support at 221, we're going to turn back to bearish, and 215 is coming. But this chart is looking like it's trying to base. It could even try to push a little bit higher. Not super strong, kind of range bound, but there is potential for it to go even higher, in my opinion. Looking at Amazon, we have resistance at 179.38. If we break this and hold it, we're going to easily go up to 182 again, then higher levels like 184. If we lose 179, we're going to be sinking all the way down to 177. But I favor a move to the upside a bit more. For Meta, in my opinion, has potential to go up to about this 450 resistance. If we break this, we could be pushing all the way up towards 470 very, very slowly. But let me just make it very clear that it really depends on if we could get back above this resistance. I know that Meta had interesting earnings. The earnings were pretty good, actually. If anything, we just had not the strongest of revenues. And that's why we ended up getting this break from this structure right here. But there is potential for it to try to rebound a bit because of how the market is performing and some new news. For Microsoft, we have resistance approaching at this 420 area. If we break this, look for 424. Looks pretty good right now, trying to hold up. It's also up about 4% in the after hours, not bad. Google, excuse me. It's up 11% right now. Going to be looking at 177.5, eventually 180 is resistance, and it has potential. For the VIX, we're looking a bit more bearish, but look at support at 15.29. If we lose 15.29, we're going to be sinking down to the 14s and eventually all the way down towards this imbalance at 14 flat. If we lose that, that's going to be bullish for the stock market. That would be because of the market pushing. If we bounce off this, we could be trying to go back up to 16.5. If that's the case, that would be bearish for the markets. But so far, it's looking a little bit weaker. We have to watch for confirmation just to be safe. The 10-year Treasury yield is still looking bullish, trying to push higher, but it'll watch resistance at 4.7. If we reject off this, we could sink to 4.6. If we break this, we could be pushing higher. So give this some time. And finally, for the dollar index, the dollar, in my personal opinion, is looking I would say a little bit more bearish right now. It's actually turning back down. So if we keep sinking, watch 105.5, losing that would take us to this imbalance around 105.25. So if this were to drop lower, this would help the market push higher. There's a good chance it's looking bearish right now. So this is showing us that technicals are turning back to bullish for the stock market, at least temporarily. So the odds favor more potential upside. So we will see what happens with PCE data and all this stuff. But I think that Tesla has a very good chance of reaching 175 tomorrow based off technicals and these different factors. It could even break this and go higher towards 178 to 180. But just to be safe, let's wait and see what the data tells us. But just know, guys, I do think 175 is very probable or even higher. Tesla's looking pretty strong right now, and the technicals look very, very nice. All right, so thank you for listening. Have a great day. Sorry the video is kind of late, guys. I had a lot of things going on, but everything is settled. Everything is okay, and I should be on time for tomorrow and beyond. Thank you for listening, guys. I appreciate every single one of you, and I'll see you guys very soon in just a couple of within like 12 hours. I should be back for the next pre-market update. I'll be talking about the next PC report, so get ready for that. Take care, guys. Enjoy the evening, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you again, and peace out.